You have to be seated because they... Καλά.
So, good evening. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. First of all, thank you very much for coming. You all look as though you're in an English cinema, trying to sit as far away from everybody else as possible. These are the times. First of all, a welcome address, please, from Mrs. Natalia.
Thank you very much, Simon. Chairman of the ICS Greek branch, President of the Eugenides Foundation, member of our panel, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am delighted to welcome you to our 16th ICS Annual Forum. Thank you all for being here with us tonight, and a special thank to all of you that are joining us remotely. After 2 years of absence, we are back at Eugenides Foundation. Due to COVID-19 regulations and restrictions in the number of attendees, we are able to host today our members of the panel, our members of the Institute of Chartership Brokers, and our prize winners. But thanks to the advanced technology, our event is now being lively broadcasted around the world, and hundreds of people are able to watching us virtually. Since our last forum, we have experienced major changes in our lives, and we had to adapt to a new environment. Shipping faced unprecedented challenges, but has reaffirmed its vital function as the lifeblood of global trade. This is reflected at our forum's title tonight. The world wakes up to the importance of shipping. Now what? Now, and more than ever, we need to build up our adaptability and flexibility. By nature, shipping is a complex, ever-changing industry, and it requires to be well prepared for any change that may come moving forward. Greek shipping has always proved that it can overcome any difficulty and stays strong throughout the years. And this is because all the people involved in this sector are able to adapt and take the best decisions that lead to great achievements. The ICS plays an important role in this. It is committed to provide shipping professionals with the most up-to-date knowledge and necessary tools in order to be competitive and face new challenges. Through the ICS Professional Maritime Qualification, we provide a wealth of skills, hard or soft, so as to respond to the demanding shipping profession. And all these years that we have trained more than 5,000 shipping professionals, we have created a network of practitioners who respect and follow the business ethics and values. We are happy to say that despite the challenging last 2 years, we honor tonight our prize winners who had excelled at the ICS examinations worldwide. Of course, nothing would be possible without the dedication and assistance of my team at Hellenic Management Center, Tanya, Stavroula, Konstantina, Christina, and Tonya, as well as of all our lecturers who give their time from their busy schedule to share the knowledge and expertise to the students. Also, I would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Nicholas Tsavliris, for his valuable support all these years. And at this point, I would like to especially thank and welcome our distinguished members of our panel, Mr. Dionysis Christodoulopoulos, Mr. Alexander Hadjipateras, Mr. Ioannis Martinos, Mrs. Milena Papa, Mr. Philippos Prokopakis, Mr. Gordon Robertson, Dr. Nicholas Tsakos, Mrs. Eva Gima, and Mr. Andreas Wiesmann. Welcome to our forum, and thank you for your participation. Tonight, our panel moderator will be Simon Ward, Director at Ursa Brokers, fellow member of the Institute, lecturer of the Greek branch, great colleague, great friend, and a motivator for all of us. Once again, thank you all for being here tonight, and I wish you will enjoy our forum tonight. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Natalia. And now, Mr. Tsavliris, if you'd like to come and say a few words. Mr. Tsavliris has been chair of the branch since 2005 and has been a member for 52 years. So around
my age now.
No. You were a very young member.
Yeah.
Okay. So please, a few words. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Natalia for the kind words every year, every time we come here. Thank you. Dear ICS members, our students and distinguished guests, welcome to the 16th Annual Forum of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers Greek Branch. The ICS Annual Forum is back after 2 years of absence due to the pandemic that shocked the world. I'm glad to see you all here tonight and to welcome you, also those who are watching us remotely from all over the world. We are lucky to live in an era where technology keeps the information flow uninterrupted and the industry stays connected. This enables us to host the hybrid event tonight. It is a truism that people realize the value of something when they are deprived of it. Really, where would we be without sufficient shipping capacity, without competent crews, or even without the Suez Canal? Although shipping has been taken for granted, the world is now aware of the importance of shipping in the global supply chain. In turn, the shipping industry has reciprocated by innovating and adapting to constantly changing circumstances. This is reflected in our forum's title tonight, "The World Wakes Up to the Importance of Shipping, Now What?" Shipping has caught the world's attention, and our distinguished speakers will be discussing this evening the new issues and challenges that we will be facing moving forward. It is my pleasure to see familiar faces on the panel and in the audience of third or fourth generation of Greek shipping families who are evolving successfully and achieving great accomplishments. We must recognize that Greek shipping invariably leads the way, often in the face of adversity, with considerable staying power. Greek ship owners have often been identified with Ulysses and his attributes. Homer refers to Ulysses as the man of many ways, the man of twists and turns, in the ancient epic poem Odyssey. This explains how the Greeks survived in every crisis and how they are at the forefront of international shipping. They use their brains and follow their instinct. They grasp opportunities and they work hard. Greek ship owners are not risk-averse. Indeed, they enjoy taking calculated risks, provided that the gain is commensurate with the risk. I mention these comments because I think it should interest our students here. Most of you people, you know about it. The Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, for 110 years now, fulfills an important role in educating future generations of shipping professionals. Proper education and an ethical approach to business are the key elements that the ICS stands for and are the essential tools that we, members of the shipping community, need to be equipped with in order to face future challenges. Once again, this event, which is so capably organized by Natalia Marioli-Komninou and her efficient team, offers an excellent opportunity to share our ideas and concerns about the shipping industry. I welcome tonight's speakers and thank them cordially for contributing to this event. I thank Mr. Leonidas Dimitriadis Evgenidis and his personnel at the Evgenidis Foundation for the hospitality. Is Leonidas here? Is he? No? Okay. Thank you all, both present and online, for your attendance today and for your continuing support. Thank you especially goes out to our loyal sponsors. I sincerely hope that you enjoy today's presentations and discussions and invite you to join in. Every opinion counts. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right, what I'm doing now is I'm about to self-isolate with the microphone so I can speak without having this mask on. Welcome from me. It's good to see you all in the flesh. That's what I can see of you, and it's a bit difficult to recognize all of you. And welcome to all those who are at home in their pajamas watching us online. We can't see you, it's okay, even though you can see us. I was thinking about this year's theme, and it is true that the world has suddenly woken up to shipping. As in generally, I mean, people who don't care about shipping suddenly care about it. And this makes us popular, but this also puts us under some more scrutiny, I think, from people that would otherwise have it. And has anyone who watched with amusement or frustration about that small ship, the Ever Given, getting stranded in the Suez Canal, and then all the ridiculous and stupid solutions that experts came out with to try and resolve the situation, had found out? It gets a bit irritating, doesn't it, when people who think that they have expertise don't have it, and we that do have it aren't making our voices heard. So I hope we can change that tonight. I hope that our voices can be heard and we can have a discussion in the forum itself. And we have a fantastic panel, I have to say. And I'm going to be addressing, hopefully, with some response, 5 main themes: the environment, the markets, finance, technology, and people. I remind you that this is a forum where all views should be heard. Here are the shipbrokers of the year coming in late. Okay, well, always. This is a forum, and I encourage you to interrupt, ask questions, make interventions, corrections, comments, or whatever. Don't wait till the end, because as you all know, when you're in the middle of a conversation, you said, that's Bocati, and you want to say something, the moment goes. So just grab my attention, wave your hand, and I will bring you in. You will find microphones around on the seats there. I hope in the past, as in the past, the conversation will flow between the panelists. I want to make sure that they fight with each other, have a strong discussion with each other, and so we can share our knowledge, expertise, and opinions, and even our prejudices, because all of this is important. Only through that are we arriving at some kind of enlightenment process, both from within ourselves and also as a group, as a body, of something we should be proud of. And then we all become better informed, I hope. So what I'm going to do is basically this. I'm going to start the conversation, and I'm going to see where the conversation goes. And if the conversation stops, I will start it off again. And if anybody here wishes to accelerate the conversation or divert it or change it, you're very welcome to interrupt at any time. So, no pressure, Dr. Nikos, but over to you first, if I may ask. And so I can see you as well from here. I'm self-isolating, but I can see you now. I'm here. Okay. Your work within Tatanko has put you at the center of many discussions about the future of shipping. How strong a voice do you think that ship owners and managers have during these discussions? And do you think the people that listen to you actually listen? Or they already have preconceived opinions and you're just there to fill in the gaps?
I'm not used to speaking publicly for 2 years, so feel free to mute me out whenever you... But thank you very much for this. I think shipping in general is a very fragmented industry, so our voice usually and our actions, we follow already taken decisions. After that, it's very hard to reverse the decisions. We work hard, organizations like Intertanko, ICS and Intercargo are working very hard to try and bring us close to shipping reality the effects of those decisions. As you see, there was a lot, we have all forgotten by now that a year and a half ago or two, we were all talking about what will happen in 2020 with the new emission rules and the new fuels, the 0.5 for our ships. As soon as we all started thinking about it, then the COVID virus happened, and I think we all paid our attention, rightly so, to something different. One example where shipping was able to be successful was back in the 90s. For those of you older enough to remember, perhaps Nick was just coming of age, Nick Tsavliris at the time, the OPA 90, where at least a decision was taken for, without our consent, but the way it was staggered was that from 1990 to 2005 or 4, you could actually stagger out the single ships and be able to come to a very successful result. I think the double-double design, we should all agree, in the P&I clubs, is one of the most successful ways to prevent pollution. So we can be helpful, but we're not in the front line because we're very fragmented.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Milena, you took a couple of day trips up to Glasgow recently, and I know that you're heavily involved in the environmental concerns, and I imagine that you met quite a few people that have similar concerns on how shipping is going to decarbonize in the future. But from your point of view, I mean, first of all, from a shipping point of view and from a personal point of view, how was it? I mean, what was it like up there?
So first of all, thank you for having me. I attended some informal dinners and discussions, which were actually very enlightening. We've seen in previous transitions, of fuel transitions rather, have been driven by financial needs. This one is new. This one, I've lost my words. I think it's because you look so good.
There's a first time for everything.
So this time we're transitioning because of climatic change. So we're trying to tackle this decarbonization, or rather what came out from the discussions was rather global warming, because decarbonizing is one of the things. Methane is another thing. There's a lot of things that we need to do in order to prevent our world from going to Celsius up in global warming. So one of the things that came out from the various discussions is the need for cooperation. This is something, exactly like Mr. Taco said, it's a fragmented, shipping and the maritime industry generally is a fragmented sector in industry that interrelies on each other. So you have ports, you have miners, you have brokers, you have charters, engine makers, and all these people and industries rely on each other in order to see and determine what the next alternative fuels are. What the next technologies are and the next engines of the future. So, and most importantly, rather, the infrastructure to support all this. So coming out of COP, we saw a huge need for collaborations and strong strategic collaborations amongst key major players in order to move forward and move coherently, rather, because it's a huge investment, trillions of dollars will be put in, and you don't want to put them into the wrong fuels, into the wrong technologies, or end up with stranded assets, obsolete assets, and, you know, it's a big risk. So this was one of the main things that came out of it, from the discussions. One point from the actual decisions that were taken from COP, which I found very interesting, was the phasing out of coal. What we all thought was going to be a phasing out of coal and coal-fired power and energy was at the last minute changed by China mostly into phasing down. So we expect that this will affect shipping as shipping volumes continue, and there's a longevity in the life cycle of coal, which is one of the most emitting carbon dioxide fossil fuels. So this, I think, will affect the market, the shipping market, a lot, as it represents about 17 to 20% of volumes and ton miles. So we will have support from that, at least in dry bulk, even more so in the future. So I think these two things were what came out a lot affecting shipping.
Yeah, I like the way that phased down. I'm phasing down my drinking now.
I'm not. No, scaling it up.
But it doesn't mean anything, so I can just carry on, you know, I mean, it's fine. Dionisi, you're at the sharp end of all this, because you're the guy well, you're not the only guy. There's lots of you in Greece and Germany and Denmark and elsewhere who have to provide the new engines. And if you get it wrong, then you get it wrong big, don't you? Because you supply, what, 50% of marine engines at the moment?
Actually, 50% is the percentage that we have for all the type of the engines that we supply to the shipping sector. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, auxiliary engines, everything. So we are, I can say, liable for the 1.5% of the global CO2 emissions.
You must be very proud.
No, I'm not at all. Okay.
So if that is the case, when you're looking at the future of marine propulsion, where are you laying your bets? Because you have to think about this in the long term, because you've got to have the product available to go and put in the ships.
Actually, you asked me to answer not the 1 million answer, the 1 trillion plus answer. This is for sure. Nobody knows who will be the dominant fuel within the next decade. Only assumptions we can do. And we have not to take just as standalone the technology of the engine. We have to see holistically the chain of the fuel supply. To decide who will be the new fuels, we have to know about the cost of the new fuel, the safety, the logistics, and the technology. So, as company, and I assume that the same it happens with the other companies, they design and they manufacture the combustion engines, the diesel engines, where, by the way, will be the platform to operate your vessels for at least the next 10 to 20 years. There is not something in the future that will replace them. We take into account all these parameters. And we have seen that there are solutions. Already the last decade there are solutions. We use methanol, we use LNG. Imagine that 20 years ago, there was a big hesitation about LNG to be used also as a fuel. Now, the 100% of LNG carriers, they are operating with LNG as a fuel. In 2 years from now, 3 years, almost the 100% of the container vessels will use LNG. And the forecast is that by 2030, more than the 50% of all the rest sectors, they use also fuel, use LNG as a main fuel. So, to answer you, if it will be ammonia, if it will be methanol, if it will be hydrogen, is not a safe question. We can do assumptions and we can really analyze it.
Okay, so what is a safe question then?
Sorry?
What is a safe question then?
For the next 10 years, LNG will be the dominant fuel and will be a bridge fuel. We developed the technology, all the engine designers and manufacturers, also MAN, which has such a big market share. And we have seen some pros for methanol, but methanol you cannot find it in West Africa or somewhere else. It's applicable mainly for container liners, that you know that you will start from the one point and you end to the X point, finish for the next 8 years. So I can say for sure LNG will be the next fuel for the next, will be the fuel for the next 10 years. We developed as company many other fuels. Hydrogen, for example, will be the key basis for many future fuels.
The key ingredient for ammonia.
Exactly. Not as directly fuel,
yeah,
but, for example, synthetic gases. Already we launched a new synthetic engine in Northern Sea on a container vessels. And it is a synthetic natural gas with 0 CO2 emission.
Okay, Philippos, welcome everybody to Philippos. He's the most popular person in the room because he's in container chartering, okay? And he has been living the dream for the last over a year. And people used to ignore him on the street, and now he can't get anywhere because he's Mr. Containers. And tonight he is here on behalf of the Naus. So are you going to be buying lots of these new ships in the future, anytime soon, Philippos?
First of all, thank you for having me once more. What an honor. Basically, you know, definitely going green is a one-way street in the industry and for containers as well, especially being, you know, consuming most fuel out of all shipping segments anyway. In our opinion, obviously, any investment decision from our side has to do with what our customers want to do and what direction they are taking. And so far, we have seen that this is a mixed kind of reaction. Obviously, many of our customers have gone to the LNG solution, which I would agree with that it's a medium-term solution, which will not end up being the final solution. As a company, we will not engage, especially on a speculatively basis, on such a fuel. Definitely, we believe that in the next 5 years, we shall have some more clarity on what the prevailing fuel will be. Definitely, building a ship is an important decision because, yes, you can build a conventional ship, and yes, you can charter that ship for 5, 7, 10 years with great returns, but the fact remains that the ship will be needed for 25 years. So basically that decision, especially now, which orders become in containers is being more and more speculatively from an NOO perspective like us, the whole consideration is more difficult. If I would have to speculate, I would go green, probably basis methanol or dual fuel ship today, methanol ready. But of course, I mean, we haven't done it, we haven't engaged it. But if you had to really put a gun to my head, that's where I would go.
Okay, as long as it wasn't Maersk putting a gun to your head in that case. Andreas, welcome to Greece. You must be sick and tired now about hearing about how great Greek shipping is when Danish shipping is pretty good too. You're in charge of assets, and that means sale and purchase and long-term chartering. But I note in a press release the other day that you've also had a rather groovy addition to your section, which is logistics and climate solutions. How do you think that is going to change your view? Because you're an S&P guy, you're a chartering guy, you're in the markets, now you've got these people down the hall that are going to be demanding more of you. Do you think that's going to change your perspective?
Thanks for having me, first of all. Great honor to be here. And always nice to be in Greece, of course, and also hearing about the greatness of Greek shipping. It's always a pleasure. To come straight to the answer of that question would be that specific team that we've set up in Norden is more a focus on what do the clients need from us and what do they require from us.
Is that from an operational point of view, like you providing the tonnage?
It's more what solutions can we help with to make the whole supply chain more green, essentially, and help the environment. We've tested several things on our own ships. We've tested used cooking oil, for example. No problem with the great man engines most of the time. No, always. And it works fine. But of course, it ties a little bit into everything else. What is there enough supply of? And there's definitely never going to be enough supply of used cooking oil to make that a sustainable fuel.
Not even after Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the new setup we're doing is more a reflection of what do people, our clients, need from us. So it's more on the chartering and the supply chain, not so much on the asset side of business.
So let me get this straight, Andreas, sorry, because I want to get to the point here, okay? Your team is in charge of long-term chartering and sale and purchase and tankers and dry bulk carriers.
Correct.
So you must be pretty confused at the moment, yeah?
No, it might seem so from the outside, but I actually think confused is maybe not the right word to use in the sense that we're actually pretty clear on the direction that we're going. And have been so for a couple of years. We spent 2020 and well into 21 really beefing up the dry fleet. We added a lot of tonnage, both on purchase and on the long-term chartering. We started taking a little bit of risk off the table and selling ships. Not that we don't believe in the dry market in the long term, because we definitely do, and it remains our by far biggest segment. But we also think the tankers are in for quite a good run the next couple of years. Yeah, well, the $1 million question. I hate to disappoint, but it's probably not going to be Q1. But let's see. No. So now we're putting more money over into the tanker side. So confused, maybe not the right word, but there's enough to do when you do both, and there's a lot of decisions to be made for sure.
Eva, have you had an interesting year or two in terms of COVID? Has anything changed in work, or is it the markets that have made your life interesting?
First of all, thanks for having me. For a minute there, you brought me back to 2019, but we solved that, so great. It's been an interesting year, I think, for everyone. And I personally, it's the first time since I've only been in the industry since 2012, it's the first time that I've actually seen some serious excitement. And this has been an all-round thing from ship owners, not all of them, but some of them, and ship brokers, banks, bank financing. Do you want me to focus somewhere specifically?
No,
or because it's a very general question, Simon. Give me a break.
I just want you to be joyful in this, because you've only been, I mean, that's the point though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Milena.
Can I just, I think the
Sorry
fact...
to interrupt you.
Yeah, oh, sorry about that. Just because you want the discussion to keep flowing, I think the fact that no one can answer the question about what the right fuel is at the moment is great, because people don't order that much. And even with LNG is very high on methane emissions. So yes, medium term, 10, 15 years, I think if the market allows it, the IMO will go after
They're
LNG.
working on green LNG, these guys.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Synthetic natural gas.
Yeah, there's only one team in this room, it's Liverpool. Let's just remember that, please. Thank you. Okay. With all due respect, sir. Really. Milena, I think Eva has touched on a point there. She's only been in the industry for 12 years, and there's been no, in 12 years, since 2012, and there's been no excitement. I mean, I'm a sell and purchase broker, and since the beginning of the year, it's been very difficult for me to say, do you want to buy or do you want to sell? Because they say, leave me alone, Simon, we're making money. That's it, isn't it? So, is this, I mean, obviously you've been in the company for a while, but this is a new thing for the dry, isn't it? I mean, in terms of your position where you are, because you're doing the project stuff and that kind of thing without revealing anything too much further.
Thanks for being discreet, but I've been in the company since 2006-07, so I've seen the 2008 boom.
The child of the boom.
I'll reveal, just for the sake of this panel. But yeah, I mean, generally I'm a very conservative person. My father always tells me I shouldn't be this conservative, and how, you know, a person so liberal like him had a daughter as conservative as me. But this is the first time that I'm very bullish on the market. I think that the fundamentals, if we look at them, are supply-driven this time, and there's... All right, let me restart. We have a very small order book, which is historical lows, around 7%, versus, just to give you an idea, 2011 we had 80% order book. I'm just giving some numbers to see how small it is. And this is mostly because of the uncertainty coming out from environmental regulations and the new alternative fuels and engines and technologies going forward. So even though the market went up, we saw that it's the first time that owners didn't rush to the yards. First of all, because of the regulations and the uncertainty, then the yards are full of container vessels, and we've seen very high steel prices. Now, we have a lot of COVID-related inefficiencies, which tie up our vessels for quite a while, for the quarantines, congestion, reroutings, for crew changes, and it goes on. From the demand side, we see suddenly the entire world coming out of COVID, thanks to the vaccines, but you know, Omicron might bring us back in, I don't know. So we see a surge from around the globe and a simultaneous demand on key cargoes across the globe. This resulted in commodity prices skyrocketing, which also led China in the beginning of 2021 pull back and not import as much iron ore and coal in order to cool down the prices. So in the absence of China, which is the biggest importer and driver of demand, we see that the market kept going, which is a very important thing because we can see that there are key fundamentals there that show the strength of it all. So I believe that after the Winter Olympics that China has, around February, which coincides with their new year, I think that we will see China coming in back into the market and will give a lot of support, and that makes me hugely excited, especially when I know that supply side cannot go up. It's restrained, it can only go down depending on scrapping, and scrap values are going up. Environmental regulations are putting constraints on the speed limits. So I can't wait for China to be back in the picture. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yanis, and I suppose Dr. Nikos, and I suppose Andreas too. Obviously, when we say commodities, we don't mean the liquid stuff, do we? I mean, this is all very well for coal and grain and iron ore and all the little things that go in boxes and so on, but it's not good for the stuff that goes in planes and cars and stuff, is it? It hasn't been fun.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Tankers.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the tanker market, I mean, it's, you know, everyone else is partying and the tanker market is still saying, well, when's it going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we're kind of out of the Jubilee period this year, but we did have a good run at the beginning of COVID. I do believe that if we didn't have now the Omicron situations, things would have improved quite substantially. But for now, we're going back a little bit into hibernation mode, I think. It will take probably another 6 months before things really clear up with COVID and we kind of know what the new way of life is going to look like. I think the uncertainty is definitely, you know, especially on the mobility side, is really hitting tankers. But you know, it's a market that has shown many times in the past that it can come back with a vengeance and quickly. And I'm hoping that this will happen again very soon, or in the medium term, I guess.
In the meantime, Signal has taken on, should we say, a different role, providing tools for the shipping community and from the data gathering and so on to help decision-making better, and I suppose in this market, this is where decision-making really has to be tight.
Right. Absolutely.
Can you describe briefly? I mean, first of all, are you going to take away the broker's role? Is Leona, Shipbroker of the Year, going to have to go home now because Signal are starting creating all these wonderful tools?
Yeah. Thankfully, absolutely not. So.
Okay, we're okay. We're okay.
At least. I've always been actually a big fan of the function of broking because I think it actually adds a lot of value in the shipping process. There's no doubt in my mind that it will continue being there. You know, especially if you look how big the transactions are that happen in you know, in every shipping transaction. It's a big transaction. It's not like you're getting, you know, $20 out of an ATM machine and it's okay for a robot to give you the money. If you wanted to pick up a couple of $1 million from the bank, there would probably be a few security people there to help you do that, and you know you will have a human attention in the process.
So you have to go into the security business,
right? Okay. Absolutely, or the broking business. And
it's the same thing sometimes. Isn't it?
You know, I think the value is there. However, there are certain things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis if you want to stay on top of the markets. When we started Signal, we said we are going to basically try to beat the market by $1,000 a day per ship in the spot market of Aframaxes, and we've been very happy to have succeeded in doing so. And technology has helped us do that. But as I was telling Mr. Tsavliris earlier in the foyer, technology is like a good, like good gym equipment. You can take it and use it well, and then, you can see the benefits. But if you buy it and put it in your basement and never touch it, you're not going to see any miraculous results. So right now we're at this stage, I think, with technology. Technology has improved, but it hasn't actually made certain decisions a no-brainer, and it certainly will not replace the human in the decision-making loop.
Okay.
So what will happen, though, I think, is that more and more people, like in exercising, all of us are increasingly realizing that the best medicine that we have for longevity that humans have discovered is to work out. And hopefully in shipping, technology will also be one of the best medicine for longevity in the spot markets and more generally volatile markets like those in shipping.
Alex, you are Chief Operating Officer of a company that runs a lot of LPG ships, and I know that you too are very interested in technology, but what are your fears for technology in terms of how humans use them? Because obviously we are hearing about not just the good things, but the bad things that come with technology and come with the internet and come with ransomware and everything else. So, as an operating officer, do you think that that is something that shipping overlooks? Is it something that you're concerned about?
Thank you for promoting me, because I'm an executive vice president, but very nice to be introduced as COO.
Okay, well, look, it's okay.
No, it's nice.
I can call you whatever you want.
I'll wear a different hat. You're the boss. To bring it back to people, which I believe was one of your themes, and maybe to, first of all, thank you, Natalia, Nicholas, and Simon. It's great to be here, first time. No, I think on the engine discussion and technology, to take a little bit away from Yannis's point, I think one of our concerns is training seafarers, the new engines. Even Nicholas Tsakos mentioned how we were discussing the 0.5 fuels and scrubbers before. We've seen on some of our ships with scrubbers some of the challenges operationally. So some of these new fuels are, of course there are safety systems, but they are very, very, very poisonous. So safety and training and technology around that is one of our key focuses. So we see some new companies now with VR, different training schemes. I mean, not only because of COVID and not being able to go on ships, but I think that's one area that we're very intrigued in and looking into more and more training.
So in having environmentally friendly fuels, they're not necessarily friendly for the environment of crews. Is that a concern that you have?
Well, we've had ships that have carried them before as cargo, right? So we're familiar with the risks and the risk assessment. So yes, it's of course there's the utmost detail focused on safety, but it would be naive not to assume that you have to be well trained. And as I mentioned with the scrubbers, or even with the refrigeration systems on LPG ships, it's like you have 2 or 3 engine rooms on board. It's not just a traditional bulk carrier. Well, I'm sure they're more sophisticated too now, but still.
One of the things we have noticed is that we have forgotten safety. I mean, okay, we're all taking care of safety with our masks on our personal basis, but safety, which was, for Intertango or for all the organizations, one of the IMO, one of the core tasks we had to take care of safety on board the ships and safety of the cargo and the environment. I mean, now safety for this has been forgotten, and we're talking about all these new fuels that will be coming, but no one is really paying attention yet to how safe they are. So I think this is one of the concerns we have going forward on what we said about safety.
Gordon, which neatly goes into you. I mean, you've, I guess, had an interesting time, P&I.
Can I just answer his question first?
Yeah.
Well, we are. The International Tanker Owners Pollution Federation are paid for by the P&I clubs pollution experts, and they are investigating the safety and the potential risks behind all of the proposed fuels. And of course, it is something
it's
that...
It's not headline news as it used to be. Right now,
No, completely agree with you.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah. But it's something that's possibly not being taken into account, you know, as much as other things. And you know, secondly, it's all about green hydrogen. And I know you don't like the colour, but it's all about green hydrogen. It's all about blue. Yeah. Let's go for blue. Blue's Greek and Scottish. I can handle that. You know, there was a great story which is probably fake. I've got no idea, but it's a good example to come out of COP26. And this was that all of the world leaders were staying at Gleneagles, and there was a fleet of Teslas bought to ferry them all down to COP26. But they only had one Tesla charging port at Gleneagles, so they bought a load of diesel generators to power the charge up the Teslas. Now, you know, this comes to the point. There's no point in us actually going after all of these green fuels and all the blue fuels, the blue economy, unless we actually make the generation of this power in the first place environmentally efficient. I mean, if we're just going to use natural gas to make ammonia, it's just, you know, we're not going to get that far. So really, we need to be doing more about the renewables at source as well, I think, before we really get too far down the climate change path, because we're not going to make any difference. We're just moving the source of the pollution somewhere else, which might be Australia, of course, which isn't as much of a problem.
No, well, no, I mean, just to recap, I mean, the blue, green, brown, I think, is that right? Blue, there's green, there's brown, there's red. No, this is about hydrogen. And basically, to get hydrogen, it has to come from sustainable sources, which is solar and wind and so on. And you need a lot of hydrogen to make ammonia. Is that right? I think. Okay. But there isn't the capacity at the moment to make enough, and so most of it's done via LNG. But there's not enough LNG at the moment either, as we're finding out in Europe. So it seems to be an interesting conundrum that I think goes back to Milena's point. It needs collaboration in this particular case, rather than finger pointing and saying you've got to change things because that's what's coming out of your funnel.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's exactly what you're saying. We saw the initiative from the U.S. in collaboration with some other countries, and I don't remember what it was called, to create a fund in order to gather all demands on alternative fuels and technologies and pre-order them in a way in order for it to give financial incentives. So we see all the more initiatives of that sort. And you can see it in various ways being expressed. But that was exactly one of the things that came out of COP as well.
Well, just to share something with myself, I came across this recently where there is a fund that's going after buying ships, which is always a nice thing. I encourage it generally, you know, for me. But it had to be Tier 3, Phase 3 EEDI, and it also had to be ready now, and it also had to be fixed for 5 years on charter, now. And, okay, Tina Candle, it's just, you know, it doesn't work like that. And you tell somebody who's not necessarily in the industry, it doesn't work like that, they say, why? And then they call us dinosaurs.
Of course, I chartered 5 years ago. So
you did, John?
we would want to charter that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it'll be a little bit more ready than 2024, wouldn't it? It'll be a bit sooner than that. So I think there is money looking for a guaranteed return, but that's why we're in shipping, because there's no such thing as a guaranteed return, sadly. Gordon, I want to come back to this, though, because you're very much a people's person, if you don't mind me saying. You're very friendly and sociable and malleable and cuddly.
Cuddly?
Yeah, well, you know, COVID, you know. And On the people side, it's... Okay, let me ask you another question. Have you had many cargo claims that you think could be attributable to COVID?
Not really. I mean, the big impact of COVID has been on the people on the ships. In terms of claims, last year was pretty normal on the people side, but we've saved everything up. People have been stuck on board the ships longer, and so far this year we're seeing a significant increase in the people claims coming from the ships, and that's due to the fact that they've been on board the ships for significantly longer. There's people stuck on board the ships. There's people who are building up an awful lot of, anxiety and stress because they don't know what's going on at home. And, this is to the tune for us of about $20 million extra just for the first half of this year. And that's the experience across the international group. So that, for us, that's a bit under a 100% increase in the... It's nearly double what we would have been expecting in terms of crew claims for this year at the half year. And so it's significant. It's very significant.
And these problems, these claims are, you think, attributable to the fact that seafarers are not treated properly. They're not treated as key workers. They're not treated as essential parts. Shipping works. Everyone loves shipping, but they don't care about the people on board the ships.
Well, they don't know the people are there. So we've got the opportunity now that shipping is in people's minds, but we need to get people remembering the seafarers, the people who are actually driving the ships. I mean, the Ever Given was quite an interesting incident, because I don't know if everybody remembers. There was a poor Syrian chap who'd been stuck on a ship in Egypt for 4 years. He got home really quickly as soon as the Ever Given happened, and that story went away. But there was a chap who had been sitting on a ship on his own in the Bitter Lakes because the ship had been arrested, and they needed the Egyptian authorities took away his passport because there needed to be a legal representative on board the ship. The guy was swimming on shore to fill up water tanks and get his phone charged, and he was there for 4 years. So we've got an opportunity now to highlight to people what our seafarers are actually doing for us and do justice by them, and I think that's really what we need to be thinking about and focusing on to a big extent.
I mean, let me share my experience a little bit on this. I don't come from a shipping family. I'll be clear about that. But when I do talk to people like that, there's the general, I'm sure most of us are aware of this, people that are not from shipping, they are that, ship owners, they don't care about their crew, flag of convenience, this is not a picture that I recognise. Is it one that you recognise?
It's not, and, owners they want to look after their people as best they possibly can. They want them to have the best training, the best food possible on board. That's the first question anybody asks when they go on board.
I have to say this: that Greek ships are always known for their good food.
Yeah, I think it's a very important thing. So I do think owners are really trying to look after their people. I think where they're being hindered at the moment is that governments and authorities are not helping them look after their people because, seafarers don't vote in the country of the government or the authorities really that where they are. I mean, we've had some horrendous stories through this.
I may say so on the people. I think one issue that we could have done a better job, and it could have been easier if we had the cooperation of the authorities, is we have about, as 400,000 seafarers serving the global fleet. It would have been not difficult to vaccinate either with the Johnson, which is just one shot. I think if we were not a fragmented industry as we are, we should have been able not to allow a single seafarer, let's say after September 2020, where you had the vaccines out, because before that you didn't have them, to go on board without a vaccination. I think we failed our people with that, and we could. It's not a huge amount. It's a town in. It's a tiny village in China or a town in Greece to vaccinate 400,000 people. That was really, I got very mad that we were not being able to at least say from September 2020, no one will board the ship without at least getting a Johnson & Johnson vaccination.
So I think it was something proposed at the Hellenic Chamber of Shipping.
We tried, but I mean, you couldn't get all the authorities or all the various unions to agree, and then of course you had, the unions didn't want to impose this. But I think we created time bombs, I mean, health hazards on our 2025 seafarers without doing this.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of things that we're seeing at the moment, which, ask the question, what are we doing to these people on board? Not nice stories, folks, I hate to say it, but, we're seeing, increased numbers of suicides. We're seeing people who are finding that, discovering that they're going to have to quarantine before they fly home. And that's pushing them over the edge because they need to get home because they've got something going on at home that they need to be able to deal with. We've seen a lot of that, and people going to extreme lengths. We're also starting to see seafarers hiding the fact that they're ill, hiding the fact that they've got problems on board, that there's symptoms on board, because they're worried about what the authorities are going to do to that ship and those people when they get there. They're worried that it's going to ruin everybody's crew changes, that some people aren't going to get home and all that sort of thing. So this is sort of a knock-on effect of the whole thing.
The big technical management companies, like these ships is present today, you should get together and make sure that you take, we're able to vaccine the crew.
The thing is that you have no...
Mr. Conte from VSIP.
You don't have the leverage from the local authorities and the local governments. Actually, they are blocking anything. We have had a recent case with the seafarer that he was tested positive, and he was, his situation has escalated within 4 or 5 days. And we were calling a port in Asia, and the authorities were not accepting even to disembark someone like he was in a critical health situation. So even we escalated the whole case to the ministry locally. We used also the governmental pressure from here. We finally got to that point that we disembarked, but this is not a human treatment. This is something that
exactly what you say.
To this level, you should look at the seafarers as your number one priority because they are moving around all the global goods.
But this is the thing that bothers me, that I think causes part of the problem, because I don't think that I know we think shipping's in the spotlight now and people are aware of it, but if all of the ports, the authorities and the countries and everybody was as aware of it as they should be and realised how important it was for the seafarers and so on, then we wouldn't be having these sorts of problems, I don't think, because I think people would be more helpful.
Susanna, please.
Everything just moves because of the seafarers. So crew fatigue has so much to do with it when people are on board for many, many months. Stresses, not being able to contact sick family members. And these are the people that just found out that a family member died and then are going to operating heavy machinery in the middle of the busiest ports. So I think it ties in together, not just what it has to do with crew changes, but also the way that the actual ships are operated day in and day out. And now we're sort of trying to shift the blame, kind of, when we forget that this is the absolute core of the business, what's happening on the ship day in and day out. We might be doing anything we want in the office and trying to believe that we're doing the best we can, but if these people are exhausted and ill and feel unwelcome and scared and worried, then these are the people operating our ships.
And on this point, social media exacerbates a lot of these concerns because personal life follows the seafarer to the ship now. There's no separation. So even prior COVID, that was a challenge, but when you can't go home or you have these quarantine periods, it's even more difficult. And to the point on mental health, there's a shame associated with speaking up. We've worked with the Sailor Society to provide support to the vessels, and I remember one seafarer said to us, "Oh, what do you think, I'm crazy or something?" So it is a challenge to try and get people to open up, and
I think that people are stating the obvious and we keep repeating the same thing. The problem is that we don't have a unified voice for it. We don't have a strong voice for it at places where decisions are being made governmentally, especially in places and countries where most of our ships trade. And that is the major problem. Everything other than that, it's obvious. Everything else that is stated, I mean, obviously, the seafarers are #1 priority for everybody. I mean, they're the ones running the ships, they're the ones moving the cargo.
But it's obvious to us. Is it obvious to everyone else? Because if it were, would this still be the case? And I think you have to talk about the fragmentation. Of course, being in Greece or Denmark or Singapore or Norway, it is obvious to people in shipping. But if you go to the U.S. and Indiana and, someone thinks about why their Amazon package is late, do they really understand what's happening with the crew on board the container ship? I think this is one of our challenges.
But you even have problems in countries like Singapore and the rest where they do understand it and they do understand shipping.
Yeah, I hope people watching and seeing this will make the world, now it has noticed shipping, realise that we do take this thing very seriously. And, but Filippo, I kind of slightly disagree with you in as much that, yes, it's terrible, it's bad, something must be done. Pios.
I mean, probably I'm not the best person here on the panel to answer this. Probably Dr. Tsakos maybe has a more sophisticated answer on this.
No, it's not. But this is, shipping works because it's fragmented. Shipping works because the market is made that way. Tramp shipping is like that. It does not have control over the monopoly. There isn't a bigger share for all of this stuff. And no one can do that, but its strength is its weakness then, in terms of the regulation.
I think, as you said, the outside perception of shipping is not the best because people do not vote. It's considered a secretive industry. It's a huge industry. Very few people understand that. And if you take it with pollution, I mean, we say we have to do, and we are doing the best with pollution, like we did with in tankers with the double-double. The whole industry reinvented itself in a design between 1990 and 2000. You had almost a huge, more than 20 billion at that time, it was a lot of money, of reinvestment into tankers to have a modern fleet. What we're saying is the same today. Shipping, the whole of shipping, including containers, which, as you know, he's very happy because they're making a lot of money, and all the other vessels. We have our footprint is 2.8%, which is big, of the global pollution. However, we transport 75% of the world's goods. There's no more economical, efficient, and environmental friendly way to actually move 100,000 tons of iron ore, of oil, or you will need trucks, millions and millions of trucks polluting the world. One of the statistics that was comparing the whole footprint of shipping, environmental footprint, is the equivalent of 1 year's, again, the annual 1 year cow methane poop of New Zealand, which is a true statistic. So that's exactly what our footprint is. The whole shipping industry produces as much carbon as the New Zealand sheep or cows or whatever. I think they have mainly sheep there or cows. So, but nobody knows this. So, it is an image.
Well, I think nobody cares, I think is the answer. So, anyway, let's move on to something a little bit more. Okay. Really. Dr. Nikos, I thought you were a gentleman, honestly. I mean, how dare you? You'll have to use this one, I'm afraid.
John Faraklis from London, from All About Shipping. I'd like to ask the panel and the audience, according to Mr. Tsakos, which was a good point, with respect to safety, what shall we have to opt to, for the alternative source of energy or for the renewable source of energy? particularly when ante portas we have the autonomous shipping coming up, and many things will change.
Actually, let me rephrase your question, if you allow me.
Please do.
Yes, because to be clear what I will go to answer. You asked me, what are the other options, actually, that we have? Can you open up the mask because it...
What shall we opt for, the alternative source of energy or for the renewable source of energy?
The one is depending from the other. Let me explain you. The selection of an alternative fuel depends from 6 factors: availability, carbon intensity, cost projection, safety, you mentioned, some technical characteristics with the storage of the fuel. For example, the hydrogen needs more than 250 degrees minus to be stored. So we are talking about very, very expensive investment and initial capex. So it's not just what only as a standalone the selection of the fuel will be, has to take in account all these parameters. We have started the well-to-wake initiative, which takes the full magnitude of the industry, meaning the production, the transportation, the refining, and the terminals. At the end, it is the onshore usage of the fuels. So probably I mentioned 2 different aspects, but they are interconnected. And we have really to be flexible according to what it matches better to our needs. I mentioned before about methanol. Methanol, for example, is a CO2 neutral fuel, let's say very low emission. It is easy to be handled. Also, the storage is also easy, and the technology is here. It's not so much different than the methane, the LNG. So this is used when you have the infrastructure available. When you will decide to have a new fuel, the 85% of the cost has to do not with the engine itself and the vessel, has to do with the infrastructure. What I mentioned before, production, transportation, refining, and at the end of the day, the terminals. So, about the renewables. Right now, also something that probably you don't know, MAN, except the marine engines, is designing and is manufacturing also equipment for renewable storage, for storage from renewable energy. We have a new equipment, Power-to-X, that can transform the solar, the wind energy to hydrogen, or which is the main ingredient for the ammonia and other alternative fuels. If we achieve to scale up the production of the hydrogen, is a solution. Frankly speaking, right now, there are close to 100 companies that they claim that they can produce hydrogen. The highest capacity cannot exceed some tons per week for the most of them. So we are in a very basic level right now. For that reason, I mentioned before that LNG is the bridge fuel till the moment that we will be ready to supply from renewable source the alternative fuels.
But you also have to add the vested interest right now.
Simon, please, can you give the microphone? Because also, I assume that you have to...
Well, we have to add also the vested interest in the current usage of XYZ means of fuel, whatever. Because if we go for the alternative source of energy, one thing will happen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, big money will change hands. How will you counter to this?
Okay, before we stray too further into conspiracy theories and so on, everyone has a vested interest. And money, whichever it will go to profit. And I think if what I gather from Dionysi in this particular case, MAN B&W aren't hedging their bets. in terms of you have dual fuel engine designs, you'll have engines which can change technology and be retrofitted. So when it comes down to it, it's not necessarily the marine propulsion units that's the issue. It's what the market will sort out in terms of the fuel supply itself. Is that correct?
Exactly. It has to do with the overall factors that I mentioned before: availability, projection of the cost, safety, carbon intensities. There are factors that they cannot be flat for every usage. It has to do with specific sectors and specific needs.
Eva, wake up. Okay, I know you've been quiet for a long time, despite the prodding of Dr. Nikos Chakos next to you there. Money, seeing as we're on the subject. It's great, isn't it? I mean, we've got dry bulk carrier owners that want more money because their ships are worth more. We've got container shipping tonnage providers who are on the hunt for other stuff. Have you seen your banking friends running to you for valuations and a lot more activity in that sector?
Yeah, I think this has been a very, very active year for ship financing, and I'd say it's the first time that at least I've seen banks being proactive rather than reactive. So banks usually wait until the market starts going up, and then, you know, it's up for a few months,
So
and then they
renewal.
decide to finance in about a year's, you know, good market, which is probably too late given the fact that cycles have gotten smaller and smaller in the past years. But I think this year is an exception to that.
So it's renewal rather than restructuring?
Yeah, I think, I mean, at least Greek banks, the ones that I work with, I've seen them very active, and they started being present since, I'd say, last September, last October, meaning September, October 2020, which is great. It shows that, first of all, ship owners are allowed to increase their fleets, renew their fleets, and make something out of it, because at the end of the day, they carry a bit risk in everyday operations, so they do deserve that, what's happening now. And tanker owners will get there as well. When people don't expect it to, because that's the thing, when consensus is there and everyone agrees about something.
So we should go on holiday and wait.
Yes, exactly. I actually think oil has more time ahead to, you know, to operate and to be needed by the world. But, you know, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. But I really don't expect people in India wake up in a few months down the line and buy an electric car. So.
They have the electric chuk-chuk, you know, the one that's
there you go. No, the thing is that, you know, having the environment in mind is great, but at the end of the day, markets need to be ready for that transition.
But the Greek banks need Greek shipping because they haven't got much else to invest in, really, have they?
Well, they're looking at it and they're concerned about it, but I'd say at least at this stage, everyone has been excited with just financing a fairly modern eco vessel and see how it goes. Most loans are, you know, have a profile of 5 years or a bit more, so, you know, we'll see what happens after that.
Do you see money being thrown at you, Milena, from banks and from funds that want to get into this great new thing? I mean, certainly, I think we can agree, this is not 2007, 2008 in terms of capital markets and stuff like that, if you can cast your mind that far back.
I can do that. I think that, well, the loans that we've seen, the green finance rather, that we've been seeing, because there is a trend and there's a push from customers of the banks to go towards that greener technologies. And we see that now there's a lot of new products being developed, like loans for ESD, energy-saving devices, retrofitting vessels with, for example, wind propulsion technologies. And the banks are eager to finance these kinds of things. We even see some funds coming up in different countries, specifically designed for those. We also see a lot of sustainability-linked loans. We've done a couple ourselves. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did.
Of course. Say what you like. It's only Dr. Chakos. It's okay.
That are linked to the various KPIs and are aimed to increase rather your average efficiency ratio. And if you achieve them, they give you a discount on the interest rates. If you don't, maybe you have some kind of repercussion rather. It depends on. But we see even more so the banks coming eager, like Eva said, to finance greener assets and greener technologies, and they provide an incentive for these things. They provide lower rates, more competitive terms, and I think that we will see that all the more. Okay, I don't know about Greece, yeah, shipping is the main thing to finance in Greece, but around the world, as our world moves to decarbonize, and the industries move much faster than shipping, exactly because we're fragmented and also we represent such a small part of, it's only 3% of carbon emissions around the world that we emit compared to any other industry. So I think that if we don't find ways to be greener and emit lesser carbon dioxide, the banks will move towards more sustainable industries with a smaller environmental footprint.
Andreas, you're Danish. You're by definition environmentally friendly. You know, all that wonderful architecture and pine furniture and stuff like that. Very, very green. Denmark is pretty much a focal point for this kind of green financing, and Danish ship finance, Norbank and so on. I mean, is that something that you have to pay attention to when you're looking at you know, both investment and divestment of the stuff that you're looking at the moment?
I think it will certainly help in when we do it. It's not a prerequisite as such. I mean, we can get financing without the green element, but it's definitely an advantage if we can show that we are trying to do something on the green agenda, a little bit like what Melina also says. In terms of for us as a ship owner and charterer, we have made the decision that from 2030 onwards, we will no longer be ordering ships that are not zero emission. And that goes both for long-term chartering out of Japan or from wherever, or own account. So we're definitely trying to do something, and we're trying to push the agenda.
Well, give me a hint. Who builds the best ships for that? Is it the Japanese?
We're still waiting for the reply to that one.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Do you see much demand for green financing in Greece outside the listed companies and that have access anyway, ever?
I think it hasn't yet matured in Greece as much probably as it has outside Greece. It will eventually get there, but as I said before, in the meantime, banks are just interested to finance modern vessels that will be able to meet the criteria that is going to be applied 2023 onwards. So for the time being, no. And I have to say, continuing being proactive, banks have also started, at least here in Greece, started looking at even older tanker vessels now, trying to get ahead of the game for what's coming next and what will happen when nobody expects it to happen, as I said before. So I'd say for the time being...
It's making me excited with all this news about the future.
Yeah. So I think this more has to do with banks operating abroad, and the fact that there has been a lot of pressure from shareholders to try and finance ship-owning companies that do maintain a much more greener profile. We haven't seen, in my opinion, this is not yet happening in Greece in the same sort of strict way that is happening outside Greece.
Yanis, sorry, Milena, and then on to you. No, go ahead.
Sorry. Here we go. Today, they disclosed a new, the carbon disclosure program, which was the first project, rather, which was the first time that this was disclosed with different kinds of ratings. And this is just one of the tools that I think that will be used going forward by banks, especially as we see banks taking initiatives like the Poseidon Principles, and all the more, which started with Western banks, and is now being endorsed even by Asian banks, and I think across the world. So I think as we move forward, okay, for the listed companies, it's much more urgent in the sense that you have you publish your results, you have much more transparency, there's a need by your clients and investors, shareholders to have ESG strategies. All these things are liked by the banks because it also fulfills their greener footprint for their clients. But I think that for Greece, still, for smaller companies, it's also opportunistic, which making money is always a good thing, so I'm also pro that.
Okay, I want to ask Yanis a question, and then I'm going to go to Philippos, and then I'm going to go to Andreas, who are screaming at me at the end of the panel over there. Yanni, in your models, the data models that you're looking at and how you do this, how much does it pay to be green? In terms of the environmental efficiency of the ship, let's say, is there something where you can look at it and say that's a good ship to have because apart from all the other boxes that you're ticking, it makes you money?
Absolutely. I think there's one part that pays basically as much as fuel that particular ship saves, and or how cheap the fuel it can burn is, for example, if you have scrubbers. So these things are, the market has basically reached the point where it can evaluate them on a per day basis. So, if you have a scrubber fitted vessel, in some ways, and it's an eco vessel, in some ways it can earn 3,000-4,000 more per day. But also what's interesting is to see how few decisions people are willing to take in favor of the environment if they make zero money. And that's actually something that's a little bit disappointing. To give an example, if someone can spend $1 million more in order to install a scrubber, and then they do their calculation and the math works out, they, let's say, will do that, or with energy-saving devices and so on. But if a charter in the spot market offers someone $200 a day more per day for the voyage that they're about to fix next, even if that ship has to cross the whole Atlantic in ballast, emitting a lot of CO2 in the process, 99.9% of all commercial teams will make that decision, and I'm leaving that 0.1% out for political correctness reasons.
So let me get it straight, sorry, because I'm a bit slow. I'm only a shipbroker, an S&P one, okay. So basically, market efficiencies dictate that somebody will pay you more to send a ship empty to pick up something to go somewhere else, and then the next day will be the same thing. And this is basically just burning...
If you get a marginally more competitive job offer from a cargo, there might be a cargo right next to you that pays you an amount A, an account across the Atlantic that pays you an amount B, but when you run all the calculations, the profit that you make, let's say, is 0.5% better. 99.9% of commercial teams will opt for the job that makes you more money, even though it has 3 times the environmental footprint. And the reason it has 3 times the environmental footprint is because it has to cross the Atlantic and burn a lot of fuel in order to get to the point where it's going to lift the cargo. And so that's both from the perspective of the owner, that's really bad for, it's a bad decision for the environment with marginal economic improvements for the owner. And similarly, for the charterer, it means that the ship that was across the Atlantic gave the most competitive offer. And that is something that has an economic benefit for the charterer as well, because they found a cheaper ship but it's going to be marginally cheaper than another one that was right positioned, much better for the cargo.
How can that be resolved then? Because
carbon tax is the only way.
Carbon tax. Okay.
Carbon needs to be part of the cost equation.
First of all, I'm going to a small bit because I need to get to Philippos and Andreas and then back to Susanna. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, we in our platform we have I've never seen a feature be ignored as much as this one. So it's disappointing.
Very quick comment, but also in shipping will come the ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Is something that to the rest of the corporate business, everybody talks about that, now will come to shipping and will give value to the companies that they follow this principle. It's already come, but
we've been printing it for 3 years.
yeah, you are printing it, but your shareholders, you give value to that, and you will attract more investors.
Philippos, you'll be dying to get my attention.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry, darling.
I'm waiting patiently for my turn, no worries.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, eco ships in our industry command premiums on a monetary basis, also on a duration basis when it comes to chartering. But I think that when it comes to your question on money and availability, I think no one except Andreas really answered your question. Everybody went around and saying, yes, green is obvious, and everybody, funds, banks, and everybody else are willing to give money out to green projects, and yes, they do, but we have to focus on the fact that 66% of their fleet or more is non-eco, and transactions have to be done on these ships as well. And banks and funds that we have seen, and we're public as well, are there to also provide finance on an equity basis, debt basis, and whatever basis for these ships as well, as we speak. And that's what I've seen, and I think it answers your question, where everybody focused only on green. Okay, I think that there is availability of funds for everything else as well.
Andreas, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, it's coming a little bit back to what Milena also said in terms of and then tying into your question of who will build the first zero-emission ship in 2030. At least start building in 2030. To Milena's point, it's going to be a stock-listed company, but it's not going to be a stock-listed company on its own. It's going to be a cooperation between an owner, the shipyards, and the charterers, because this is not something you just go out and spend a lot of money on without having the full circle of investment in it and the willingness to spend the money to do this, because it's going to be a huge investment for all intents and purposes. And at the end of the day, it's going to be everyone in this room that's going to be paying for it, not as shipping people, but as population of the world, essentially. It's going to come down to the consumers being willing to pay more for the green transition on everything, not just shipping. So we have to, it has to be a bigger corporation to get these things done. And getting people to pay for it on the chartering side can be difficult.
Well, you're the nearest thing we have.
I'm in cargo charters.
As a charterer here tonight, so I mean, I can't point the finger. But this is the thing that also, I mean, I'm not sure if I speak for many here, but Greece isn't known, and I do apologise, my adopted country, and I'm having my exams next year, so, you know, I am committed, honestly. But we're not, and I use the word we advisedly, but we're not new, we're not early adopters. We wait to see what technology is coming so that we know that it works before it happens. And so we're hoping that someone like Norden, for example, makes all the mistakes before us. But sorry, Dr. Nikos.
No,
that's fair enough.
I think we are Greeks have been very innovative in the new generations. And I think they have invested huge amounts of money, perhaps too much, in new buildings and new technologies and green ships. However, the first mover risk is a significant risk. I mean, we announced, I think last month, a 6-vessel dual fuel project, but based on a long charter. We wouldn't have done it. I think you said it also. We wouldn't have done it alone, because by the time we take delivery of those ships, there's a huge risk that those ships are going to be. It's like technology changes quicker than my iPhone. So you want to be in an industry that at least you have a cover for 7 and 30 years when the risk. I mean, look what happened in LNG. How many of us Greeks have invested significantly in LNG? Many of us have ships that are, relatively young ships, but because they're XDFs or turbine or vessels, they have moved into new generation. So I think we are conservative, but we are following the trends significantly.
But Simon, picking up on this point, I wanted to mention just some of the efforts of the Global Maritime Forum, like the Poseidon Principle. So maybe your point about not being early adopters, we like sometimes to look at the assets to be early adopters, but we're not making a judgment on this, but as involved in some of the discussions around the table, as we've seen a little bit with scrubbers and other issues, we see how things land and then react. So this could be a way, and I'm curious about Norden's thoughts on this, but to have more of a voice at the table going forward, because Poseidon Principles or whatever it is, Sea Cargo Charter, all of these, they become a reality very quickly, and then we do have to have an opinion and react.
So the world needs to be more connected, and our industry needs to be more connected. Would you recommend, Yanni, just before, that we share all our data with each other too? I mean, I know that you would like to get your hands on a lot of it.
You make me sound like a data troll or something.
Not at all, not at all. You're a collector of masterpieces, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Shipping's Facebook.
To be honest, I think for sure there should be some data sharing, but it's mostly with the authorities, not necessarily with one another. I think we need to educate the authorities. I think some of the carbon tax type of things will be better implemented if the authorities have the right data.
And that technology exists already. I mean, you've got.
Yeah, I think a good part of it exists for sure. You could definitely track how much CO2 each ship burns within a 5% margin.
Andrea?
Just want to say also that we're talking about big technology developments here. There are quite a lot of things that we can do already now where we as a shipping community are not doing enough necessarily, because it still costs money. But it is such a simple thing as the anti-fouling paint that you put on the ship means a lot in the terms of, obviously for bottom growth, which takes away simple power and increasing your bunker use. And we see simply, so we control around 500 ships a day in Norden, and we collect anti-fouling certificates on every single ship we charter in, whether it's long-term or short-term. And we can just see people in general, or ship owners in general, are not spending that much effort in putting the right anti-fouling paint on. That could be a very simple first step in decreasing bunker use.
But try to convince the Korean and Japanese shipyards.
It's not the shipyards, it's the owners that you need to convince.
No, try to convince the yards when you order a new building delivery to give you the right paints.
I think it's coming a little bit back to that it's the owner that has to make sure that that's being done. It's not the yard. The yards have been peeling off the specs for years, right, to make them look cheaper.
I think with the regulations coming in 23, and the EEXI and the CIIs, you will have to resort to these kinds of things unless you want to end up with really badly rated vessels that no charter wants to take. So for us, at least, it's one of the options that we're looking at. Definitely paints, because it makes the vessel have less friction, thank you. But there are many ways to do that. It's not just the paints, but the paints, I think, is a very important thing. And, I mean, unless you want to be lastly picked, you're going to have to upgrade your vessels.
Filippo.
Sorry, I agree with Milena. I mean, even for our vessels that can do an extended dry dock cycle, our decision was to also bring it back to 5 years and also apply low friction paints for that specific reason. So I fully agree on this.
Dionisi.
Again, I mentioned something, not to take a snapshot what the shipping sector is emitting. To give you an example, if you go now to build a dual fuel project, you emit close to 85,000 tons of CO2. If you go to make a retrofit, you emit only 2,500 CO2 tons. So, just the equipment that you want to replace. So it is not only just to take how much will emit during the operation, you have to take into account the whole cycle of shipping, of the life cycle. This is the one. There are measures to make reductions. Because we are doing a lot of EXI exercises right now, we see that if you make, let's say, some small adjustment, even to reduce the speed minus 15, 20%, the load, the load of the engines, which is not significant reductions, you may achieve an EXI, the EXI benchmark. So there are measures that you can even now implement in order to have, let's say, a compliance vessel with the new regulations.
Okay. Now, you may be wondering why I put my mask on. Okay. First of all, has anybody got any questions that would like to ask to the panel? I put my mask on because I have to bring the microphone to you. Thank you. I'm going to have to climb over everybody. Could you, let me just go.
Well done to you, well done to the chairman. Well done to... It's been very enjoyable. Nikos, you had said that greenhouse gas emissions, I think this is what you said, that the ships emit is 2.5. 2.8. I thought it was 1.7. Now, whether it's 1.7 or 2.8, in my mind's eye, that's a very small amount. Why do you think it's a big amount? And particularly, when we know that the goods that are transported, 90% of goods that are transported by ships.
Exactly, that was the point I exactly made. The problem is that we should know, every time we say this, we sound very defensive. And people come back to us and say, no, it's not a small amount, and you're trying to hide behind it, and you have to do something. I agree completely with you if I sit with people who are in shipping, because the problem with us, it's not a problem, is in events like this, we are all in the same boat, literally. So one way or the other, we're all into shipping, so we know. I mean, you have to have people here to convince that either politicians or people in different industries, environmentalists. So if you go and you tell some environmentalists that from Denmark, I'm joking, that 2.8% is a small amount, they are going to be very, very aggressive. So, you know, we admit it's a high amount, but to what the shipping actually offers to the world economy is even much bigger. So this is our point, and don't forget the example with the cows in New Zealand.
Sheep.
And look at all the companies. Look at all the companies now that are going from air freight to sea freight. I mean, despite all of the rise in container prices, if you go to presentations by big conglomerates, they're talking about how to get away from air freight as much as possible. So I do agree also. I think this is going to continue.
I do agree as well. That being said, if you don't do anything to move away from decarbonization, as the other industries do, it's expected that by 2050, you're going to be almost to 18%, which is a big amount. And I think that even if it's a small 18% of the carbon emissions, if we continue without doing anything, 3% would be like if it were a country, it would be like the 6th biggest country in the world in emissions. So it is a small percentage. That for me doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and find solutions to minimize that even more. We are by far the most efficient way of transportation. We transport 85% of goods by volume. But I think that this, if we don't do anything, we will become the center of the eye.
Okay, anybody else want to? Thank you very much. Captain.
Sorry, I would like to ask a question to Mr. Christodouloulis, if I may. Is MIN engaged in CO2 capture technologies?
I mentioned before that we're belonging to the Volkswagen Group. MIN Energy Solution is focusing to the source, the fuels that we can use. However, under the austerity, under the group of Volkswagen, we work also in CO2 capture technologies with our automotive partners, but nothing is ready yet to be published.
Not in shipping. Not in shipping.
Also, this will be applicable in ships, but it is very early, very immature to mention something more.
Am I allowed to ask another question?
Of course you are.
To Mr. Wieland, please. Do you have a view that you can share with us on dry bulk for the next, say, year or 2 years?
Yeah, whether it's the truth or the whole truth is a different matter. I think Milena also touched upon it earlier, that there is a slowdown in China right now. I think everyone has been able to see that the market has come down. But when you then look at it, it's come down to a level where if you said that to us a year ago, that these are the levels, we would have said, yes, please, without hesitation. On the shorter term, it's going to be very, very volatile. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be lots of up and downs. On the longer term, we are still very positive because of CII, the no supply coming in essentially. Sorry, I forgot your name. Philippus also said. You have a big fleet which is a non-eco fleet. That will be replaced at some point in the quite near future, I think personally at least, because there won't be room for it with the carbon taxes that has to come in. So in the long term, we're very, very positive. Short term, lots of up and downs to be expected, no doubt about that. I don't know if that was a very good answer, but it was a answer.
Anybody else apart from Norden's crystal ball, which is always valuable, Andreas, you understand? I mean, we'll be printing this in our weekly report.
Please don't.
Okay. Anybody else want to raise something? No, just before we move on to the next thing, I would just like to ask the panelists very briefly for 1-2 words what they would look for in potential employees. Just 2 words to describe what they look for in terms of their employees. We are a professional education organisation. We believe in certain things. We want to see if we're on the right page as you. So, Milena first.
I think initiative and thirst for knowledge, and the other thing would be discretion and being sort of what you hear, know how to discreetly. I'm losing my words again.
Okay, let me translate, okay? She wants somebody with initiative to be discreet in all situations, which is kind of incompatible, but we'll go there, okay?
Discreet with the information that they hear, and know how to be able to determine how to use that information and not take it out of the company. That's what I mean.
What to hold and what to let go.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Yanis.
I guess the first thing we would look for is for someone to be progressive. So, we're based the whole kind of culture of the company on people that look towards the future and want to see a better version of the world, to happen quite quickly, let's say. And the other thing I'm looking for personally quite a bit in people is their work ethic. I think if you have a strong work ethic, then you tend to go towards the right direction. So those are the 2 things.
Okay, Dionisi, thank you.
I will agree with Yannis. The number 1 priority is the ethical values, the work ethics. Of course, they have to have the typical competencies, the basic typical competencies. If it is advanced, it is even better, but ethical values and vision. vision for herself, himself, this will be cascaded, will be spread to the rest of the team. This is very important.
Alex, please.
Also, an understanding of the fact that the ships are running 24/7, so it's completely normal to get a phone call New Year's Day. You know, have an issue that you have to leave your family gathering to deal with. And then also, I think on the technical side, focus on automation, electrical engineering is a high value add for us.
Well, my daughter wants to study electrical engineering, and I sent it to you for. No, of course, the ethical part is very, very important. But I think for us, because this is such a complicated industry that starts, to be team players. I think this is important. To know that, I mean, just because you are chartering the ship, Nico, doesn't mean the time you charter the ship, that's going to start a mechanism of people having to actually cross the Atlantic or the Pacific. You have to be aware that, this is a part of a team rather than a specific project. So you have to understand that shipping is, as I say, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So everybody has to help each other out.
And sometimes people have to carry each other too, I think. Eva.
Vaccinated. Because
Clean.
it's not that obvious. Yes. Okay, jokes aside, about team playing, I think that's a great point. Ethical, yes, obviously, but as long as...
Other than the brokers, ethical.
Yes, plus whatever you don't bring to work, it's fine. As long as you're ethical at work, we don't care about what you do outside work. And to me, I sum it up in two words, just be present. I mean, be present in everything that's happening in a team and try to be helpful and try to figure out what's going on and ask questions. And I personally haven't figured out, a lot of things still about shipping, and I still ask questions and I still read every day. So I think that's the only way someone can be valuable to a team, ready to learn.
Gordon.
2 words you said. Honesty and enthusiasm.
Honesty and enthusiasm. Thank you.
I would say out-of-the-box thinking. No, I would also say initiatives. I would also say commitment, and commitment also applies to the values, the core values of each corporation, and commitment being there on the long term. So I would also include patience, which, as Dr. Chako said, we're here for a marathon and not a sprint.
Andres.
All the good ones have been taken now, I think. But
well, you've still got beer left.
Team player, I think, is priority one in a lot of ways. Being Danish, I have to say humble as well. And then I think what has been said before, also a willingness to learn, a willingness to work, and actually putting in the effort and the time that it does take to win the marathon, as is rightly said.
Okay, I would like to introduce you to some people. I think it's very important that, and one of the reasons I asked you this question, because you are employers, you are people that are taking shipping professionals, and we are, as the ICS, a professional organization, and we have examinations, which are fairly tough, I have to say. But we're very proud here in the Greek branch because we get prize winners. And prize winners, let me just tell you a bit what this means. There are 7 exams. Okay, you might get some exemptions, you might not. Okay, but certainly there are a core number of 4 or 5 exams that you have to take. Okay, and they range from shipping business, which everybody has to take, legal principles, economics, but also what I could call the vocational stuff, which is the aristocracy of shipbroking, ship sale and purchase, of course, dry cargo chartering, that kind of thing, tanker chartering, port agency, ship operations and management, shipping law, marine insurance, etc., etc. So there's a wide range of these things, and they have to pass. This is a global examination system. and we are the biggest contributors to membership in the world. First of all, by Hellenic Management Center, Natalia, Stavroura, Christina, Konstantina, Tanya, wherever she's gone, are running the core office there. But there's a whole bunch of other people that are giving their time and effort. And I think, Doctor, if I may ask, Captain, if I may say so, that we don't do it for the money. We're in shipping after all, we're used to this. I think we do it for another reason. And I think that reason is not something giving back, even, because I find that a rather snobbish thing. I think it's more important than that. It's teamwork. And I think you can't, the best education is on the job, without a doubt, but the next best thing is a professional education, and this is what we provide. Now, these people tonight, I have to say, are fantastic. I cannot really say much. First, Athena, apart from being the prize winner for ship sale and purchase, well, she was taught by me, so obviously this is going to happen. Apart from being the prize winner for shipping finance, she was taught by Katerina, so there's no surprise there either. She also got the highest marks in the world across all of the examinations. Perimeter, whilst holding down a full-time job as an accountant in a company and doing it. Now, this is amazing, okay? And this is our stuff. And this is our people. And this is what's coming from Greece. And this is what we're providing to the industry. So, Susanna, if you would like to come forward and present, God knows how many prizes we have here to do. And Athena, where are you? Come on, show yourself. Please give a warm applause. Don't give it to me. This is a global award. This is not Greece. This is a global award. Now, because of COVID, normally they should be going to London, to Trinity House or somewhere like that. See? No. More Stevens. Okay.
So it's more Greece now.
More Greece. If Greece wasn't enough, now you've got more Greece. So congratulations, a word to our sponsor. Congratulations to More Stevens for encouraging and developing such a fine professional for the industry. And for supporting you. Right, that was only one. You've got another two to take. Ella. Spero. This is you. You are a master at ship sale and purchase. You can give the ship sale and purchase prize. Please. 3 prizes. The top marks globally in ship sale and purchase. Don't go anywhere. We have another one for you. Buena. No, that's not you. That was the year before. After. Well, let me tell you. Oh. She's got so many prizes. She's going to need a carrier bag to take them home in, I think. Could I please ask Shipbroker of the Year, Shipbrokers of the Year, Leona and Isidora, Ella, Tadea. Come on. With great power comes great responsibility. Come on now. So please, if you would like. This is for...
Evangelia.
Indeed.
Litra.
No, wrong one.
No.
Where's the ship finance one? Where's the finance one? There's 3 of you. Anyway, congratulate her. That was the highest mark for ship finance. So, Moore Stevens, you've done very well. Congratulate her, fate her, carry her shoulder high around the office, and say hurrah in true English fashion.
What are you going to do about that?
I haven't got the...
Promoter, eh?
Anyway, that is not one that's here. Let us move on. However... Katerina, please. Because you are fantastic and you are wonderful, and because you have prize... No one can make you blush. Every year she has 1 prize winner, 2 perhaps.
Thank you to the students.
This is for Evangelia, who is not with us tonight, but if you could accept it on her behalf.
Thank you very much.
A round of applause to Evangelia, who may be online. No, she's not here. She's not here, darling. Okay, just take it, look after it, okay? Goodness sakes. Anyway. Oh dear. It's rather embarrassing. First of all, I was told by the Karianis twins, who are here with us tonight, that when their nephew came, I should keep an eye on him. And I didn't really. He just kind of went off and did a good job himself. So, Nikos for Tanker Chartering, please come forward.
We would like to ask Mr. Lemonidis Alexandros to come and give the award.
So, there we go. Now, this is a Chakos family. And if you want to see 2 proud aunts, they're over there recording everything. Give us a wave, Sophia, Anna. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Now we have a bit of embarrassment, because we've got another ship finance prize. How embarrassing for you, Katerina. You don't have to come, you stay there, you've done your work. Is he here? Mr. Evianidis, if you are here, please could you come and present the prize for Vasilis Stavropoulos, please. Vasily, are you here? Πού είναι? Όχι. He's having a cigarette. He's running downstairs as we speak. He's running down. The prize winners. He was up there. Where's the prize winner? Where's the prize winner? Where's Vasilis? Okay. Okay, and
accomplishment. Too many ladies. Congratulations.
For Vasilis, who is not here, congratulations. Now it's my turn to be a little bit embarrassed, unfortunately. First of all, Dimitrios Dimchas cannot be with us, but he has a colleague, I believe, that is going to take. Please come down. And Mr. Haj Mihaly, if you are available, please. This is for award in ship sale and purchase for the advanced diploma. And if you please send it good wishes. Sorry, you are the one that's giving him. Sorry. Yeah.
We would like to mention that Mr. Haj Mihail is how many years member of the Institute?
Since 1972.
Okay. I was almost born. I mean, so it's 48, something like that. Thank you very much for being with us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Δεν ξέρω.
The final award we're giving out is, sorry, Katerina, another sale and purchase prize winners. By the way, this is because we didn't have any forum last year, and because there's been no travel to London for the major ceremonies. This is the backlog. But this is the prize winners. Beyond that, we have many distinction students have been awarded distinctions. But the thing, before I give Philippos' award, well, not me, I'm going to ask Mr. Kokinis to come and give the award for that, because it's sale and purchase, and he is the king of ship sale and purchase, I remember. But all the students that have passed these exams have made a great achievement. All of those that have reached membership have made a greater achievement. All of those who have done that whilst working, whilst showing enthusiasm, whilst being there, I think, as Eva said, is extremely important. And I think for all those people that can't be with us tonight, and all those people that have passed their exams, could I have a round of applause for those people that are sitting at home at the moment? Everyone that passes succeeds. So, Philippos, where are you? Are you around somewhere? There you are. Look at this.
Mr. Koropoulis and Mr. Kokinis, we would like to ask you to come here and give the award. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Τέλεια. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Συγχαρητήρια, αγόρι μου.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Να είστε καλά. Dear members of our panel, I would personally like to thank you for being here with us and sharing your valuable knowledge with all of us. Thanks a lot. Simon, you were a great moderator. Thank you very much for being next to me and being next to the Institute all these years. I'm really grateful. Actually, I am grateful to Adonis where he met us, right? So, also I would like to thank everybody who contributed to the organization of our event, our chairman, Mr. Nicholas Chavliris, my colleagues at Hellenic Management Center, Mr. Leonidas Dimitriadis Evgenidis, and the personnel of the Eugenides Foundation, and last but not least, our sponsors. Before closing the event, I would like to mention that tonight we have a Christmas bazaar downstairs from Argo. It will be great if you can buy just a Christmas card and make a small donation. It's really important for the association. Thank you very much again. I hope to see you next year at our 17th Annual Forum. And thank you very much for being with us.